Hi, my name is Anthony Beltran, and I'm the Bureau Chief for the Placement and Adoption Resource Bureau with Children, Youth, and Families Department. Welcome to the introduction to our pre-training frequently asked question videos as part of our Ready New Mexico pre-service training curriculum. This is a series of 10 videos that will assist the public and people who are interested in becoming resource parents for CYFD to be able to answer any questions that you may have pertaining to the licensing process.
Why is reunification a focal value at CYFD, and how does my buy-in as a resource parent impact it?
Reunification with a family is important for several reasons. One of them is, I think that oftentimes when, the public hears that a family is involved with CYFD, they automatically think that the parent is a bad parent or a parent is maybe abusing their child. But for the most part, a very large majority of our families, our resource families just are lacking the support that they need in order to provide a safe, stable home for a child.
Reunification is so dang important because that family, I don't fully know what might have been stacked against them. I don't know if it was generational struggles and now they're trying to break out of it, or situations that just need intervention, that need somebody to help guide them. I know what parents go through when they have their children removed. They get counseling, they get substance abuse programs, they get all these programs that start going to work to help them become better parents. And gosh, if it works, if they're able to make those changes and you're able to help this child get healthy, that child's going to be so much happier. And we as a foster parent community have helped create that whole family, and being able to support them to have that relationship and that family life.
Just don't forget that they have a family that also cares and also wants to be part of even if it's just, a small milestone, it could be big for that child and their family. So just invite them, reach out. If you get a good letter from school or a good message from one of the teachers that the child did good, share that with the family. So don't just think about the big things like birthday parties or holidays. Think about the everyday things that happen and keep them included.
Reunification ideally is a goal for everyone in CYFD because it allows the young person, and it allows the parents that are involved, the siblings that are involved, to stay connected, to remain connected, and remind each other we are still a family. Just because we are hardship, it doesn't mean that we are not valuable. It doesn't mean that we do not matter to each other, and therefore also everyone else.
What difference will using a trauma-informed approach have on the children or youth in my care? Why would I change this approach?
A person should use the trauma-informed approach so that you don't cause more trauma. It's very tricky. You don't always see trauma, right? You don't always see what those triggers are. And so if you're using that trauma-informed approach, you're going to prevent an escalated situation.
Well, if we look at the basics of why someone is in treatment foster care, there's been some type of trauma. If we look at loss as a type of trauma, there it is. They've lost their home environment. The trauma exists because they just lost contact with their biological parents, their biological siblings, and that support network.
Trauma leaves such a lasting impact on a person's life. I mean, if you think back to any traumatic event in your own life, a car accident you might have had or something, when certain elements come into play, the sound, smell, a car screeches next to you, immediately you're taken back there and you're like, oh, and you're scared and it freaks you out, right? What more does it do to a child who doesn't know how to cope? So trauma is so all-encompassing in these kids' lives. And they don't even know how to say it. They don't know how to say, oh yeah, I was triggered by this situation. They don't know that. They just know I'm hurting, I'm upset, and why don't you get it? So as a parent, when you have a child who might have come from trauma, you need to be so intentional.
Using trauma-informed practices, what can I say and how can I say it to help this young person grow instead of further hindering them?
So for each child, it's kind of day to day, right? There was one moment in a therapy session. This kiddo we were tossing a ball around outside of therapy, and it was the therapist, me, and that child. And so as we're tossing the ball around, something about that repetitive movement, something about just being able to play and be kind of made him break down. And he was hugging and crying and just really having an emotional moment. And I felt, in that moment, it felt really successful, like, okay, we're doing this, we're getting through to him, this is working. So that felt really successful. Let's work on this together. You have something going on, it's okay, everybody does. Let's work on this together, and as a team, we'll move forward.
How do I provide an environment of safety and well-being for the children or youth in my care?
To model a safe environment for the children that come into our home, it's very important that we have boundaries and that we have rules and a safe environment already established in our home, that my husband and I have communicated well with each other, that we're on the same page, that all the children in our home are on the same page, and that they know what the rules are.
I think some things that I do that are pretty consistent to create that home environment is just first showing them around. This is what this is, and kind of giving them a clear idea of what to expect in your home, because they first off don't know who you are. They don't know what to expect. They don't know what they're walking into. So being able to show them, hey, this would be your room. This is the bathroom. Hey, if you ever want a snack, we've got the snack drawer. And I always have that because sometimes kids come in with food insecurity, and if they know there's always this drawer full of healthy snacks that they can choose from, I tend to think it helps with any more insecurity, not all insecurity issues.
Give that child space to just breathe and make sure that they're in a safe environment. So let them know that they're safe. Show them that they're safe, but don't try to just be the end all be all right away. That's overwhelming. Take baby steps and just let them know you're safe. There's food for you to eat. Maybe offer choices.
We want them to truly feel safe in our home, and so asking them questions, asking their birth parents questions of what, if they had a special blanket, if they had a special food, a special way that they liked to sleep or be held, a song, learning about their culture and their backgrounds, so that we can provide all the things that make them feel comfortable and secure.
Introducing them to the dogs, or asking them, hey, so sometimes kids have called me this, but other times they've called me that. You can choose whatever you'd like. You can call me whatever you'd like, and kind of giving them that authority to name that. And just having that open communication, that initial open communication, like, look, I know this is scary, I know this is new, you're always welcome to talk to me, and it's a little different based on the age. If you're talking to a teenager, use kind of some language that's a little different versus to a younger kiddo.
So all I can ask you is, please be patient, to advocate for your child. Treat him like you would treat your own.
It's important that we, as the caregivers, as the foster parents, as the parents, that we build attachments, that we teach healthy attachment, that we remind these children that they're loved.
Kind of read the room with the child, take those cues, from them if they're ready to talk, or even just being touched. Some kids, that's a trigger. So you want to love on them and hug them, but just talk to their counselor or therapist, talk to their case manager about some of their their mannerisms and things that you can avoid triggering. So just take it slow.
Why is it important for a resource parent to participate as an active team member?
A resource parent being an active team member is crucial in two ways, I would say. One is it's crucial in the sense that you are aware and you are actively aware that you are here to be part of this young person's life, to support the family by taking care of the child while the family is able to support themselves and prepare for their child to come back home. One, but two, I think the key word is active. So it's one thing when a young person comes into your home and you take care of the child, you provide them with opportunities, experiences like any other young person. What makes it different there than being an active foster parent or resource parent with reunification in mind is saying, hey, do you want to talk to your mom? Do you want to talk to your dad? You let me know when you want to do it. I have a phone. You as a young person might have a phone. Let's schedule a time to talk to them. Let's schedule a time to see them. You have siblings? Great. If the sibling is not in my home, what would you like to do? Is their birthday coming up? Can we schedule a time for all of us to get together? So in the same way that you bringing this child into your life and they're getting to learn about you, it's crucial that you learn about them, because when you learn about them, you learn about their family. You learn how to support the entire family as a unit. You are a team member to this family.
As a foster parent, having a team with CYFD, with CASA, with doctors and therapists is huge, because everyone has a different piece of information. It is very much a team effort.
You have to go in with a goal in mind, and maybe it's not setting 10 goals when the child first gets there, but a goal for, okay, within this month this is what we can try to accomplish. Or I just think taking it step by step and using that team aspect, using every possible resource that you have available to you, and knowing that as a resource parent, you're not alone.
The role of the resource parent with the team and the type of relationships they build is simply going to depend on the young person that comes into your home. Sometimes that might mean you become their educational decision maker. Sometimes it means you become their medical decision maker as well. Sometimes it means that actually, this young person has a lawyer where they'll be the ones that have this type of relationship. I think when you're a resource parent, your role can change it could change month to month depending on the young person's needs, and that's why it's going to be crucial that you have that open communication, not just with your young person, but with the entire team.
So if they're going to be able to reach out and ask for help in any situation, they're going to need that modeled for them by the team itself.
Why is it important for resource parents to actively create and cultivate relationships between a child or youth's siblings and family?
I believe strongly in keeping siblings together if possible. I know it's not always possible. Oftentimes, there are siblings that we aren't even aware of, or siblings that live with different parents in different states, and obviously that makes it difficult.
It's okay to have a relationship with their biological family, aunts, uncles, older brothers, sisters, because you want to have that connection. It's okay to have a meeting at the park, have a picnic. Get to know each side of the family. Get to know what they like and what's important to them and what's important to their family, and try to implement the things that are important in their family into your family. That way they feel comfortable.
For me, the best way to cultivate that relationship is be open to taking siblings. If you can, keep them together, because it's really important. That's a lifelong connection. This is their first friend. This is their confidant. And if there's any way you can do it, keep them together. And if there's things that need to happen, like therapy, help with that. Get them engaged. Talk to the therapist. Like, hey, after this visit with brother, this is kind of how they reacted. How do we work through that? And open that door of communication. And if that child is placed with another foster parent, well, got to make friends, make friends with that foster parent so that you guys can communicate and the kids could have phone calls. And if the department has concerns, then I'll help supervise or I'll report anything you'd like so that they can have that connection. Christmas visits, it's not a CYFD work day, but why can't we try and make it work? I mean, this is part of their lives, and it's important that they have those connections because those days are heavy for some of our kids. Like Thanksgiving, you're there with your family and they're with you and your family's accepting, but for them, they're also seeing, look, this is a whole family getting together, and it can be hard. It can be really hard for that kiddo.
The more we connect with each other, the more success the children will have in our care.
How do my actions, habits, and beliefs impact a child or youth in my care? Why are resource parents expected to expand their cultural humility?
So by being a foster mom, I know I'm not going to save the entire world. I can't foster everyone or adopt everyone. However, I know I can have an impact on that one child that is in my home, and that even if that child is in my home for a day, that hopefully for that day that they're in my home, they are seeing what it's like to be loved.
I think it's important for the child to learn that even parents or adults are going to make mistakes. There has to be room for being able to look at a role model and say, okay, they fell flat on their face. How did they get up? How did they deal with that mistake? What you do when that happens as a parent really does set the course for that young child.
But for the teenagers especially, what kind of sheets do you want? Let's go get you some new sheets that might match your bed. Or do you want any posters in particular in your room or things you want to be put up? I'd encourage them at visits if they want to put pictures up on their walls from their visits with their parents, or that way it's their space. This is them choosing what they want it to look like.
Cultural humility really does set a good example for the entire team. If I had someone come in and I wasn't really familiar with their cultural identity or their ethnic identity, the first thing I would do is tell them that. Be open and honest about it, because I'm showing my own humility, first of all. And second, I would ask them, if you're okay with it, I would really love to learn about your experience. Please teach me as much as you can, and that's going to help me to help you.
There's a very high probability that they may already feel invisible, unseen, unheard, and culture or a sense of identity could be the only thing that's still holding them as a sense of identity. So if a resource parent can support that, honor that, even if it's something they don't understand or they don't agree with, it allows a young person to still have something to ground themselves on.
In order to value and honor the child's beliefs and their culture, even if you don't know about, their culture, there's always resources in your community. There's always resources in the state of New Mexico. Reach out. These children are already in such a vulnerable and volatile situation, and so you should do everything that you can to learn and be able to support them with just being who they are and being proud of that.
You have to come into a situation or this type of partnership with a young person with a complete open mind. You may not agree with something, you may not understand something, or something might go completely against your values, but you have to remember, even though you are in this partnership with this young person, it's not just about you, it's about your young person.
We live in this huge melting pot that is New Mexico, and so there's lots of different cultures coming in. I'm Hispanic, but every Hispanic family doesn't do what I do. So I would ask that child specifically, what does your family do? What is important to your family? And put the focus there, because maybe their family did things a little differently.
It's something that's going to constantly need to be learned. You got to understand that they're different, you're different. You got to meet them where they're at, and you got to be okay with that, because it's about them. It's not about you.
How does a resource parent maintain the privacy and confidentiality of the child and family?
Maintaining confidentiality is very important when you are dealing with foster care. This can be a challenge like among friends, because friends are often very curious and want to know everything about the children in your home just because they're curious. And then even if you have a good relationship with the birth family and you're trying to maintain that relationship with them, they also, are obviously wanting to know how their children are doing, how the children in your home are doing. But because of your commitment to CYFD and to provide safety and security to the children, there is only so much information that you are allowed to share. You're doing it for the safety of the children. We respect each other's boundaries.
You just gotta really understand HIPAA and confidentiality. You don't talk to anybody about what's going on unless they're a part of the official treatment team. It's just that simple.
You move at the speed of trust. You let the young person take the lead and you respect that.
This is the child's story. It is their experience, and it's not for you to share.
I think it's important that once they're in care, resource family, caseworkers, courts, judges, everyone does what they can to make sure that this young person still has a say.
Why is CYFD changing language from foster parents to resource parents? Who are New Mexico resource parents?
So I think a common misconception about foster parents is that foster parents only provide a safe and stable home for children and youth. And while I think that that is true and that is definitely a primary goal of our resource parents, there's really so much more to what it means to be a resource parent. The definition of resource is actually something that is needed in order to achieve an outcome. And really, for resource parents, they are that resource for the department. And the work that we do with children and youth and families cannot be done without our resource parents. And so our resource parents are more than just a safe and stable home for our children. They are mentors to our birth families. They help us to find permanency for children a lot faster and a lot sooner. And they make the experience of being in foster care a little less restrictive and a little bit normal for our kids because they provide that safe and stable home for children and youth. We also could not do this work without our resource parents. And so yes, being a resource parent as opposed to just a foster parent is a better way of explaining the roles and responsibilities of a family that's going through this process because they are so much more. Referring to our resource families as resource families is also a way for us to honor that effort and dedication that our families go through. When some of us clock out at 5 o'clock, our resource parents do not. It's a 24/7 job, and the fact that they do this work and they volunteer to do this work is just another indication of how dedicated our families are to this process. They don't have to be resource parents, but they choose to be resource parents. They choose to step up and they choose to give better outcomes for our children, youth, and families. Our resource parents are helping us to build our future, and for that we are forever grateful.
Why is it important for a resource parent to be committed to nurture, advocate, and be a role model for the child or youth in their care?
There's a phrase that our family loves. It's called, it says, blessed to be a blessing. We believe that because we have been blessed so much, we can give that to others and that we should be a blessing to others. And so we try to teach our children that. So even the children, the foster children in our home, the adoptive children in our home, everyone in our home, because what we have, even if it's a little bit, we have enough to give back. Whether a child is in our home for a day, for a week, for a year, whether that child ends up being adoptive, that child is going to be treated like part of our family and be treated with the love and the respect that everyone in our home gets. And we just feel like that is important, that that's our job to model a healthy family for however long we have that opportunity.
The most daunting part of being a foster parent, truthfully, is that love isn't enough. And I don't mean that you shouldn't love them or that you can't love them well, but that you can't come in with the idea, oh, I'll love them till they're better. I'll love them out of this situation. That's not a thing. There's more that goes into it. There's an intentionality that comes into your parenting. And truthfully, the parent I am now is not the parent I was at the beginning. I've put in years of attachment work, of learning positive discipline or different disciplinary techniques to really impact the heart of the child, but also to just try and pour into these kids that have come into my care. I really try to identify their own attachment style and how do I help them and what best would work for them. I know for my youngest two, I'm really focusing on positive discipline and how I show them those things while still being an authoritative parent, not authoritarian. So it's all these ideas of parenting that now are in my head at all times. So the difference between discipline and punishment is, I always take it back to the root of the word, right, is disciple, and that means to teach, right? So if I'm going to teach these children, that doesn't mean hurt them. I'm not going to hurt them because they snuck out. I'm not going to hurt them by taking away these things. I'm going to teach them why they should not do this anymore and what could be the consequences in a lot of conversations, things like that. That way they can get a better feel for what choices they should make. So when I'm not there, they can make these choices themselves.
Self-care is important because, like anyone else, it is important for you to understand who you are, understand who you are not, understand the things that you love and understand that you don't love. Because when you understand yourself, you do self-care, you are also modeling a behavior that hopefully this young person that might be in your home can see and say, okay, what are they doing? What does that mean? Why are they doing these things, right? So you are modeling a behavior for this young person to ideally also think about what self-care looks like for them. But two, depending on how many young people are coming in and out of your home, you could be going from one young person that has many needs to the next young person being very independent. So it can be a little bit of a roller coaster, right? So that self-care is gonna be like, okay, I need something to ground me back to who I am. Because if you lose yourself, then you could start creating barriers for your young person as well and for yourself. So that self-care is not just about modeling your behavior for the young person, but it's about grounding yourself, because being a resource parent can be a roller coaster, and it can be an extremely rewarding roller coaster, but regardless, you need to be able to ground yourself, or else you won't be able to be that grounding stability that this young person needs.